Pat Travers, welcome.
Hi, how are you today?
We're well. Let's go back to age 13. You got
me or you?
Well, it better to be you. My life isn't quite as exciting. You get a family that plays instruments.
In my family?
In your family?
Yeah. Well, in our generation, with my mother did. My mother was English, so where they were born and when they were born, they all had to learn how to play piano or violin or something.
Sure.
So they did that, but we didn't really have instruments in the house, and it was really when we were all kids, really young, seeing the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show that got everybody interested in wanting to play music or listen to music. I was very excited. Everybody was, but me especially, and so that. I think I was the guy that really spearheaded the getting of the instruments. And when we moved to Ottawa, when my uncle had a music store, I was the only person that asked for a guitar.
Why was it the guitar?
Because back then, like, a piano was a huge thing, and I didn't know anything about. It was just the easiest thing to get my hands on right away without having to come up with any money or anything. My uncle had, it was very cheap acoustic guitar that he loaned me.
And by the age of 15, you're in Red Hot.
My own band, yeah.
You're heads above the rest as far as talented kids your age playing. What'd you do differently in those 2 years that other kids just couldn't figure out?
I think I just wanted it more than anybody, and didn't see. To me, it all made sense to go and borrow amps and guitars and get gigs, and it was, I don't know, it just seemed perfectly normal for me to do. But now when I look back on it, and I have kids who are the age I was when I started, and I just can't see them doing the same thing, in the same way. I don't know, but it was just something I was very motivated to do, and I was lucky. I had something that appealed to people even at a young age. So. And
back then, Ronnie Hawkins is working his way up through the States. He winds up into Canada.
It came some years after I first started. I mean, I first started playing in bands and for a living when I was about 15, and then when I was about 19 or 20, that's when Ronnie Hawkins and I first met, and then I did ultimately end up going to play with him for a year when I was 20, the year I was 20, and I played with him for just exactly about a year, and then I didn't want to do that anymore. It was,
Would you learn from Ronnie Hawkins while on tour?
Well, how to play with really talented players, how to, he had a lot more stage presence and everything. I just learned a lot from him, and then having to learn all these old songs and learn how to play them exactly as they were recorded, with, in some cases, the same guitar sound if possible. And I wasn't really all that keen on doing it, but I looked at it as like going to school, going to college or whatever, I don't know. And I guess it helped. It had to do something. It gave me playing with guys a lot more experience than I was. I mean, I was 20 and they were like in their 30s and whatnot.
By the time you reached 20, did you have a particular style of guitar that you were settled on, or could you move around?
I don't know. No, I kind of, I never really had one thing that I did. I always did a bunch of different things, and that. Yeah, no, I could play like Carlos Santana, or I could play like rockabilly, or I could play like anything. But then, ultimately, when I had to record my first album and write all those songs and come up with that music, I guess that was, at that point, was the culmination of 5 years of being a musician and whatever. My first album,
Sure.
And so that's. I just went on from there.
So by 75, you move overseas to London.
Yeah.
What brought that about?
Well, I once again, I just got lucky. No, it's funny. I didn't really think about that too much. I didn't want the comparison. I certainly wasn't going to London a la Hendrix. Yeah. I didn't see myself as that at all. I didn't see myself as the leader as the main singer in the band. I thought I'd just be a guy and have, be the guitar player and one of the main guys in the band, but I didn't think I'd be the main guy. That all came just because I couldn't find anybody else. Yeah.
After a couple of years there, you wind up coming back to the States.
Mm-hmm.
You've done cover tunes along with your own original stuff,
yeah,
all throughout your career. What do you look for in a song that you want to cover?
Oh boy, I don't know. They just sort of come. I mean, I hear lots of things that I would like to cover, but I don't do it. It's got to be happenstance a little bit. That you just happen to have access to the studio, or you're recording at that time, and it's like, oh well, it's for fun or for busy work or whatever. Let's learn this tune, like maybe we'll do a Steely Dan tune. I don't know. There's a couple I really like. I've never done. No, I did one cover a Steely Dan song. I covered Black Friday.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, on Don't Feed the Alligators. Great version of that. But yeah, if I decided we were going to do that, then I'd say, Kirk, hey, can you listen to this? And guys, and then we'd rehearse it, and I'd say, okay, now I want to do it something differently or whatever. And if it sounded good, then we keep it. If not, we just move on, So it's not like every one that I cover gets recorded, or every song I write gets recorded either, There's a lot of stuff, which now we're going to start making available, the stuff that isn't completely finished or whatever.
Right.
It's kind of stuck in a limbo zone where it's, you like it, like we'll have gotten to the point where we've actually recorded something and you really like it, but it never gets the lyric finished on it, or something happens and it just doesn't get finished, And I usually forget about them, and then Kirk or Rodney says, hey, what about, I was listening to this from the last time we recorded, and this sounds really good. So I haven't heard that stuff yet from the last time we recorded, but there may be something in there too. I don't know.
Cool.
It just depends on how it hits me, and if I can come up with, if it sounds good enough, then we'll record it and make something out of it,
How about when it comes to playing live? Do you have a different mindset for playing in front of 30,000 people as opposed to a full bar of 150?
No, it's actually easier to play in front of 30,000 people. It just seems to be easier. I mean, because you're kind of focused more on just that, one thing. I mean, you might have to do some interviews or promo or whatever, but generally, you come in separately and go to your dressing room, and you're sort of cozy away from the crowd, so you don't have the kind of to deal with all of this noise and stuff until you actually get on stage, and then it actually feels good, because by then I'm so very bored I have to do something.
Fidelis,
Mm-hmm.
your latest album?
Yeah.
It's going great. I checked out your Facebook page. Lots of people are very excited, not only about the music, but the tightness of the group. Is that something you feel as well? Well,
I think I've always had, the music I've written has always demanded that the musicians be tight with themselves. And if anything, it really shows off that if you're not, then it's not going to work with my stuff, because there's parts where everybody has to be really, really tight and dynamic. And I tend to go that way anyway. I really like the dynamics, especially live, because instead of having it on full volume all the time, you use the extra volume as an effect.
So if you're,
you know what I mean? So
sure.
Like you don't want to play it super loud all the time. You want to kind of use that as be able to big exclamation mark, but not all the time.
If you're playing out live, you ever think to yourself, oh, I'm playing.
It's like
boom,
Woodstock
boom,
with all those little exclamation marks, clouds of them.
Boom, boom, out go the lights. When you're on stage and you're pulling that off.
I don't even, when we're doing it, it's great, yeah, because it always gets a good reaction. So I don't even think about it until then. It's just, something in the, I really don't even think about it until we're just about ready to do it. And that's really, I don't think about it until we're just about ready to do it. And that's hanging on the A chord from the song before, from the one chord, and then we change to E, Q, V. Hey, now we got some bass going here.
See?
All right.
Mix of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much what I have for you today.
Well, good. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's really great
Pat,
chatting with you, man.
Great
Thank
to
you.
meet you, Pat.